Okay. Hiya, welcome to my compound life where we build habits, assets, and freedom. Okay. So help me out, become my 6th subscriber. Hit the like, hit subscribe, and let's get started. So, in today's video, what I want to talk about is the Bitcoin big drops. So I'm going to show you a simple timeline of what went down and with a slightly twist of a theory that I kind of found somewhere, right? So let's get started, right? So quick update to my last video. If you caught that one where I broke down the Bitcoin crash, you know, I learned hard. I kind of lean really hard into Tom Lee's take on why it happened. If you haven't watched that, I'll drop it on the description. You can check that out later. Okay, so just a quick recap of what Tom Lee mentioned, right? Which I think it's actually more grounded. Okay, so he obviously points out to stuff like a wild 19 billion liquidation event on October the 10th from US-China trade tariffs, plus some market makers nursing big losses from that mess. That leads on to forced selling and sharks circling to trigger more liquidation. So he even called out a mechanical glitch in the system, like a programming error, right? That amplified the pain. And yeah, he agrees there's some shady manipulation through derivatives to scare folks out and so forth. So what he wanted to highlight, it's a short-term noise, right? Funds are still sitting on cash, waiting for the dust to settle. It kind of felt like the dust are settling, right? And history shows these slumps flip fast once buyers jumps back in. So Tom Lee obviously gave us a timeline of 8 weeks, right? We are obviously on our 6 weeks, and you know, potentially it can be another week or a week and a half or so, right? So Tom's still betting big Bitcoin to hit 150,000 to 200,000 by January 2026. Okay. To be honest, I don't know about you, I'm not fully 100% convinced, right? I kind of felt it's all still a HOPIUM, right? So as I mentioned a lot of other times, right? Just remember to take profit, right? Don't hold. So if you've got a small bag of Bitcoin that you want to sell off in this cycle, we are nearing the end of the Bitcoin cycle. Not just me that know about this. A lot of Bitcoin whales, OG, they also knew about this too, right? So that's why the sell pressure, it's a lot bigger than any of the buy pressure. Okay, so take into consideration that and make sure you consistently take profit. So my pound cost average out or DCA out profit taking will start somewhere at 95,000, right? So I'll continue to do so when we hit 95,000. We are at around 86. Somehow we hit 88 last night. So I think it's all good. Okay. So let's, you know, not let the HOPIUM carry us too far and forget about taking profit. Okay. That said, this is the second theory I've heard floating around with a more conspiracy vibe to it. Okay, so it's juicy for drama, but take it with a grain of salt because it's heavy on rumors and really light on hard proof. Okay, so here's the story. Okay, the US seized a ton of Bitcoin from a scam ring, right? China flipped out calling it thefts, and boom, right? Revenge dumps from angry Chinese miners, and spook scammers tanked the price of Bitcoin. So I've tried to flesh it out with the timeline below. Okay, so it all begins before the October the 10th, 2025. Okay, that's the setup. So Bitcoin is still at hot streak, right? So early 2025 to September, Bitcoin's crushing it, right? Climbing from 70,000 to approximately 100,000 on Trump era crypto hype and big buys from whales like ETFs, MicroStrategy, and so forth. And Chinese miners are hoarding too, but shady Southeast Asian scams like the pig butchering operations targeting Chinese, US folks, and so forth are laundering billions quietly through Bitcoin. And why it matters, right? Why do I have such a setup, right? The excitement is everywhere, but those scams were a ticking time bomb for Bitcoin, right? So over 10 billion stolen in 2024 alone, right? And all of this stolen money were actually transferred into Bitcoin. Okay, so that's where the conspiracy starts. So October the 10th to 14th, 2025, that's the spark, right? The US mega seizure hits. So on October the 10th, after Trump's announced the 100% tariffs on China, it sparked instant panic. 19 to 8, about 19 to 20 billion in crypto liquidation across the board, right? And Bitcoin dips from 125K, but it kind of rebounds back at around 120K, right? At that time, we're still like bull run is not over. Bull run is definitely not over. You know, there's still room to grow and so forth, right? But on October the 14th, that's the buzz, right? Because Department of Justice, DOJ, grabs 127,000 Bitcoin. That's equate to about 14 to 15 billion from scam kingpin Chen Empire in Cambodia, right? That's where the forced labor scams with traffic victim, running fake crypto sites, and so forth, right? So what happened was scammers freak, right? They start dumping Bitcoin onto Binance to beat potential seizures, transferring everything into stablecoin. And that's when we kind of felt China's dumping real fast, right? So in late October to November the 9th of 2025, that's when the fire starts, right? Because China yells thefts, and that's when the dump began. So October 20th to the 31st of October, we can definitely see a lot of on-chain spikes, show hundreds of thousands of BTC, Bitcoin flooding into Binance. And these are all tied to Chinese wallets and Chinese miners, right? So fears selling keeps ramping up during that period of time. And November the 9th, that's when the bombshell hits, right? China CVERC, that stands for Chinese Computer Virus Emergency Report Center, report accuses the US for hacking a Chinese mining pool in 2020, hoarding the coins and now stealing them through the seizure for a secret reserve, right? And at the peak, that's 16 billion thefts. So obviously US fires back, it's scam proceed, not a hack, right? You know what? Imagine that Donald Trump, Eric Trump, been talking about Bitcoin strategic reserve. So essentially, US not trying to buy Bitcoin or sell gold to buy Bitcoin, they simply have to just confiscate them, right? So this is the conspiracy angle, right? Because China demands return to victims, and this is when tension boils, right? Miners and holders starts to, well, Chinese miners and Chinese holders of Bitcoin starts to dump in revenge, like the US grabbing Russia bonds. It's not just fear, it's payback, flooding the market and crashing Bitcoin from 110K to under 100,000 US dollars for Bitcoin. So where we are now, we are sometime in near end of October, so near end of November, so mid November 2025. This is where we see the huge avalanche, where the retail starts to panic sell, and that's the snowball of where we are right now. So November 11th to 18th, liquidation wipe billions, ETFs bleeds more than $800 million dollars worth of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin hits 80,000 low. MicroStrategy stocks tanks 40% on index kicks fear, and potentially, I'm just saying potentially, forcing potential sales, right? But of course, I think MicroStrategy liquidation was around 76,000 or somewhere just below 75,000 USD per Bitcoin, right? So I think recent Sunday pump, yesterday's pump for Bitcoin at around, I think it hit to about 88,000. It gives some confidence back, right? And of course, there are waves and theory twists where, blame on scam operation cashing out fast, plus Chinese long-term bags getting liquidated out of paranoia, right? And I think some banks like JPMorgan's piles up by shorting MicroStrategy to boost the price down further. And everything just feels really fragile right now. Okay, so one accusation leading to another and leading on to more chaos, right? So to wrap up, theories versus reality, right? So Tom Lee views feels more plausible to me, right? The tariffs, the coding glitch, and market maker holes explain the mechanical without needing international spy novel plots, right? The second one got that conspiracy thrill, like the US China cyber heist, revenge sell, scammer stampede. It's fun to speculate, but evidence is thin, mostly on chain dumps and seizure dogs and so forth, right? With China's report as the spark. Either way, right? Bitcoin price is at approximately 82 to 86,000. Now everyone's, including you and me, are praying for a comeback, right? So we will see. So have a little faith. Maybe the bull run's not over. But anyhow, stay safe by taking profit whenever you do have the opportunity, because we are playing safe, because we are towards the end of the Bitcoin 4-year cycle, right? We can take a little gamble, take a little risk by not selling, a small stash of our Bitcoin and wait for the potential run, because there are, of course, catalysts out there that can potentially, push Bitcoin price upwards again. As mentioned before, the catalyst would be the Trump stimulus check, the rate cut that we've all been waiting for. Yeah, I think, these are some of them. But at the same time, be cautious, because there's always the AI bubble that people are talking about that are about to bust, and at the same time there's also the money market, the private money market, that are not doing so well for the time being. Okay, so any of this can be the black swan for Bitcoin. So please be safe, right? Take profit whenever possible. You take profit, you're not weak hands, you're not paper hands or lattice hand. You're just being smart, protecting your capital. Okay, so that's what we always talk about in compound life, right? Because we want to build habits. So this is kind of like building habits. Constantly taking profit is definitely building habits, right? We talk about building assets strategically with Bitcoin can give us a very, very good return in a very short period of time. And of course, we want to build freedom, essentially, with Bitcoin, with along with other assets, can really give us that financial freedom. Okay, so thanks for watching. Please hit the like, hit subscribe, become my 6th subscriber. I'll be really thankful, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.